Just speculation layered on top of the story. What's actually settled is this. By the time Gog and Magog have come and gone, almost every major sign of the last day will have already played out. Whatever time is left after that point is short. The beast from the earth. Next up is another one of these signs. The beast of the earth, Dabbat al-Ard. People tend to picture something out of a horror movie when they hear that name. But the Arabic word itself is pretty plain. It just means a living creature that comes up out of the ground. According to the narrations, this happens while people are circling the Kaaba. The earth near Mount Safa splits open, and the beast comes out of it. Not human. Not really any animal we'd recognize either. And somehow, despite that, it can talk. It moves fast enough that outrunning it isn't an option for anyone. It carries two things with it: the staff that once belonged to Prophet Musa, and the seal that belonged to Prophet Suleiman. With those two things, it's able to speak to people directly and tell believers apart from disbelievers. The Quran actually touches on this moment, describing how, once the decree comes to pass, a creature will rise from the earth and speak to people, because humanity never held firm certainty in the signs it had already been given. Some narrations add more detail. The beast touches believers on the face with Musa's staff, and their faces start to glow. Then it marks the foreheads of disbelievers using Suleiman's seal. After that, there's no more guessing. Everyone can immediately tell who believes and who doesn't just by looking at them. The beast showing up and the sun rising from the west are usually described together, almost back to back, which is part of why they're seen as such a strong signal that the end is genuinely close by that point, when no one speaks up anymore. Before any of this, the Prophet also warned about something quieter, a period where people would just stop correcting each other. Nobody would say a word to someone who'd given up prayer. Nobody would speak up when they saw someone drinking. No reminders about fasting, no pushback against adultery or the other sins spreading around them. Just silence. A world that had gone quiet at the exact moment it needed to speak the loudest. Once humanity turns its back on Allah's commandments completely, that's when the Dajjal shows up, sent as both a test and a punishment for the people who'd already rejected the truth. Muslims will end up taking refuge inside Al-Aqsa Mosque, and eventually, Allah will have the Dajjal killed. Then Jesus comes down, and Islam spreads across the entire world. What follows is 40 years of the kind of peace most of us can barely imagine. No sickness, no death. Life on earth starts looking a lot like a preview of paradise itself. But even during that golden stretch, Allah will decree that the Great Barrier finally breaks, and Gog and Magog get loose across the earth. Jesus and the believers. One group of believers hears that Jesus has arrived and goes straight to him. Allah keeps them safe through everything the Dajjal had unleashed. When Jesus sees them, he says something simple but powerful: "What precious people this nation has." He touches their faces gently, prays blessings over them, and tells them what awaits them in paradise. The Prophet described what happens next. Allah tells Jesus to take his servants up to Mount Tur, because he's about to send out beings that nobody will be able to fight. That's Gog and Magog. The flood begins. They come down off every mountain like water breaking through a dam, spreading across everything. The first wave reaches Lake Tiberias and drains it completely, every drop. By the time the next group passes through, all they find is dry ground. And they say, matter-of-factly, "There used to be water here." From there, they head toward Jerusalem, toward Al-Aqsa. And this is where their arrogance really shows. They start boasting that they've beaten everyone on earth, so now it's time to go after the people in the heavens. They actually fire arrows up at the sky. Allah sends those same arrows back down covered in blood, not because they hit anything, but as another test, another sign of just how far gone their pride has become. Meanwhile, Jesus and the believers with him are stuck under siege. Things get so desperate that something as basic as a bull's head becomes worth more than 100 gold coins, just because hunger has gotten that severe. The prayer. Jesus and his companions turn to Allah and pray. Really pray. The kind of prayer that comes from having nothing left. And Allah answers. A disease strikes Gog and Magog. According to the narrations, something like worms or parasites attack their necks, and in a single instant, every one of them dies at once, like it was one soul, not millions. Total silence falls over the earth. One brave man volunteers to go find out what happened, honestly expecting he might not come back alive. Instead, He finds the land buried under bodies, piled one on top of another as far as he can see. He shouts back the news, "Rejoice, because Allah has wiped out the enemy," coming down from the mountains. Jesus and the believers finally come out, from caves, from fortresses, from wherever they'd been hiding, bringing their remaining livestock with them. Gog and Magog had eaten through basically everything, so there's not much left standing. Jesus comes down from Mount to wanting to pray, but there's nowhere clean left to stand. The ground is covered in bodies. So they pray again, asking Allah to deal with what's left. This time, Allah sends a wind that brings on something mild, like a common cold, among the Muslims themselves, and after 3 days, it just clears up. Then come the birds. Massive birds, next like camels, that carry the bodies away and drop them somewhere only Allah knows, clearing the land completely. The earth comes back to life. After that, the rain starts. Heavy, generous rain falling on every house, every tent, washing the whole earth clean until it's green and fertile again. The land itself is told to bring forth its fruit and give back its blessings. And it does, in a way that's hard to picture. A single pomegranate becomes enough to feed a whole group, and its peel is big enough that people actually use it for shade. The bows and arrows Gog and Magog left behind end up being burned as fuel for 7 straight years. One young she-camel produces enough milk for a large crowd. One cow's milk is enough for a whole tribe. One goat's milk is enough for an entire family. The final wind. While the world is living through all of this abundance, Allah sends one more wind, a gentle one this time, and it quietly takes the soul of every believer left on earth. What's left after that are the worst of humanity. People who'll commit sin openly, without shame, like animals in the street. And it's on them, specifically, that the hour finally arrives. A few last details. There's also a narration describing how, during the night journey, the Prophet actually called Gog and Magog to the truth directly. Almost all of them turned him down. Only a handful accepted. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri reported something else worth mentioning, that even after Gog and Magog appear, people will still be performing Hajj and Umrah at the Kaaba. Life, in some form, keeps going. As for Dhul-Qarnayn's wall, it's still out there, according to these traditions. We just can't see it. And honestly, that's not as strange as it sounds. Once you think about how Allah conceals things when He chooses to. There's a story that illustrates this well. After Surah Al-Masad was revealed, the one condemning Jamil, Abu Lahab's wife, she was furious. She grabbed a stone and stormed toward the sacred mosque, fully intending to strike the Prophet with it. He was sitting there at the time with Abu Bakr and Umar. Abu Bakr saw her coming and said they should probably leave. She wasn't exactly known for being gentle. The Prophet just told him, calmly, that she wouldn't be able to see him. And she couldn't. When she got there, she looked around, saw nothing, and turned to Abu Bakr instead, asking where his companion was. Abu Bakr asked her what she wanted with him. She said she'd heard he'd been mocking her, and swore that if she found him, she'd hit him with the stone, and if he wanted to trade verses, she could do that too. Abu Bakr, almost testing her, asked if she saw the man sitting right next to him. She looked at him like he was joking. She only saw him and Umar, nobody else. She recited her verses against the Prophet anyway and left. Once she was gone, Abu Bakr asked the Prophet if she'd actually seen him. He said no, Allah had stopped her from seeing him, and the angels had made sure of it. Then he recited the meaning of a verse from the Quran, that a barrier had been placed in front of them and behind them, covering them, so they simply couldn't see. The same logic applies here. Just like we don't see the angels or the jinn walking among us, it shouldn't be surprising that Allah keeps the wall of Gog and Magog and the people behind it hidden from us too.